So good evening, and thank you for participating in the Face It Q&A session presented by Fayette County Public Schools and the 16th District PTA. We are taking this opportunity as a family and community to engage together and support one another.
The Face It platform allows us to virtually have real talk, build real relationships, and allow real ways for us to express what we're feeling, exert our energy in a positive way, and be solution-driven in our approach to whatever we are facing in the communities.
Absolutely. Isn't that necessary?
Yes.
I'm Melody Westerfield, the FACE, the Family and Community Engagement Liaison. I'm located at William Wells Brown Elementary School. And we have Sharika right there, Sharika Smith. Oh, she frozen. Sharika Smith.
I knew I was going to freeze. I knew it was going to happen right there. Sorry, guys. I'm Sharika Smith. I work for the Department of Student Support at Fayette County Public Schools. And this week's Face It topic is Facing Virtual Learning Together, Academic Style. We're so excited to have Dr. Soraya Matthews. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. As shared before, I'm Soraya Matthews. I serve our district as the Director for Teaching and Learning. I primarily focus on the support of all of our middle schools and high schools, but I also wear another hat as the leader of all of our special magnet and innovative programs.
Awesome. Welcome. We're excited to have you. We also have BJ Cheney, or BJ Martin, as it says on the screen. Please introduce yourself to us.
Good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be with you this evening. My name is BJ Cheney, and I also serve the district as the Director of Teaching and Learning. I primarily support our elementary schools. Along with our team, Soraya and I collaboratively support all schools and programs to ensure high-quality teaching and learning in every classroom.
Awesome. Good. And so also we have with us tonight is Amy Johns. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Melody, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with everyone tonight. My name is Amy Johns, and I am one of the district's associate directors in the technology department. My focus is on instructional technology, and we support the district and our staff with trying to prepare them to use technology, which is obviously really important right now as we are starting the school year virtually.
Amy, you're a big focus for us tonight. You hear me? So just to reiterate, Dr. Soraya Matthews, you are going to focus on our middle school, high school students and family. BJ, you're going to focus on our elementary students and family, right?
That's right.
Amy is going to be our tech person. And so, Soraya, we're going to start with you. And BJ. Okay, so when it comes to the curriculum and the programs that our students are going to use as it pertains to middle school and high school, please tell us that what curriculum they're going to use at this point in time.
Yeah, so great question. In the middle and high schools, our families are really going to see both some familiar programs that they were introduced to a couple years ago, but also some new curriculum programs and supports. For example, we have a shared reading and writing curriculum that we implemented about 4 years ago called Collections. You will continue to see that, of course, being implemented throughout the district. And for the past 3 years, we've also had a shared math program called Envision. So again, those programs are going to continue as usual, but families will also see additional programs. So new programs include, at the middle school level, Imagine Learning. And that was introduced as part of our summer school program. And we'll see that start to transcend as well into our new school year. And then with our high school, we're going to see some OdysseyWare courses that will be used as a supplemental curriculum support for our teachers. And that's a web-based content, and it can be utilized in the blended learning environment.
To echo what Soraya mentioned, our elementary families will also see some familiar programs this school year, especially with our Reading and Writing Wonders program, Math Investigations, and Envision Math and Amplify Science. Those are all programs families will be familiar with. These are programs that will allow us to continue to provide that equitable, high quality teaching and learning at the elementary level, regardless if we're working face-to-face or we're working together through distance learning. And as Soraya shared, we're excited to provide Imagine Learning also this year for the elementary as an adaptable online program that will continue to further support students in reading and math. This program assesses our students where they are and creates a personalized plan for their learning in reading and math. Many families of students who participated in Summer Bridge will be familiar with Imagine Learning.
Absolutely. Well, I had to learn about Imagine Learning this past school year with working at William Wells Brown. So it was new to me, so I had to kind of get familiarized to it. So with the both of you still, how is that different in learning, and what does that look like?
So with NTI, or 2DL, differentiated distance learning, it is really the design of instruction to account for the individual learning needs of all of our students. We know that we need to be intentional about filling any gaps in their learning that may have resulted from the spring, but also at the same time, accelerating learning to ensure that we're able to get a year's worth of learning in the current school year. So we intentionally embedded some adaptive tools. We're working with our teachers and school leaders on understanding the process for accelerating learning. And we've also implemented a distance learning framework as part of our district-wide instructional process.
The only thing that I would add to what Soraya has already shared is that the differentiated learning allows us to meet every student where they are in their process of learning and to develop a plan for each one of them as they work within the expectations we have for learning and the standards that we have for academic performance.
Listen, what the both of you are saying right now is the most important thing ever, is to figure out, how this looks different for everybody. So I do appreciate your feedback, and I can't wait to see what you come up with, honestly, seriously.
So Dr. Matthews, you just mentioned a distance learning framework. Can you?
You froze up on me there. I'm sorry. Is it just me?
No, she's freezing. So I think she wants you to speak to the
About that to us, please.
Say it again. So what did you say, Sharika?
Speak specifically about the distance learning framework. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the distance learning framework was implemented specifically to streamline the design process for teachers. We know that teachers have a lot of moving pieces and a lot of moving parts. And so the framework just allows our teachers to really streamline the process. And it also makes it more efficient for our teachers. But at the same time, it makes the learning and the navigating of that learning more effective for our students and our families. There are 5 phases of the learning throughout the framework, and they build upon each other. They carve out a very clear path of learning for our students. So we've done that training with our teachers this week. We've probably done so far, we've been in front of about 3,000 to 4,000 teachers so far this week.
Wow.
So it's gonna be great.
Wow, that's awesome. So here's the question, and I'm just gonna be honest and candid.
Yeah.
Are these learning programs for 2DL going to be challenging for our students?
Good question.
So regardless of the modality of instruction, whether we're working in NTI, 2DL, or traditional in-person instruction, our goal is for students to be engaged in their own learning of academically challenging content. So that's going to happen regardless. This is just part of our instructional process. Our district believes that there are 4 key resources that students need in daily instruction. The first is consistent opportunities to work inside those grade appropriate assignments. The second is strong instruction where students do most of the thinking. The third is just being deeply engaged in what they're learning, and they all need teachers, and we have the most amazing teachers who hold high expectations for students and believe that they can master the content. The distance learning framework that Soraya mentions was developed with those 4 things in mind. All new learning is challenging, and as Soraya mentioned earlier, we'll be very intentional about filling any knowledge gaps that may have resulted from the spring. But at the same time, our teachers are going to utilize many effective strategies to accelerate learning to ensure that all students receive that year's worth of learning and growth for this year.
Awesome. Thank
Didn't
you.
you just feel like you just went through a training with those two? Like, Just had to
Forget
train me.
this.
We're talking our language and our passion.
So, Amy, of course, I'm not going to leave you out, and I'm glad you unmuted yourself and you're ready to go. So I'm ready to give you a question. So, focusing on everything that they just talked about, the different platforms that students will be using this fall. Tell us what teachers will be using to deliver that curriculum program. Is it Google Class, like what does that look like?
Absolutely. So it is super important, given that we have all of these wonderful resources that Soraya and BJ mentioned, that we have one place for parents and students to go and for teachers to pull all of that together. So kids may have to go out to some of those different sites and some of those different resources, but they need one place to find all of that information. So at the elementary level, they're going to be using Google Classroom this year, which a lot of our parents are probably familiar with because a lot of our teachers used it in the spring. And so we have made some decisions this year around learning management systems, which is what Google Classroom and Canvas are, to make sure that we have consistency. So all elementary students, all elementary schools will be using Google Classroom. Okay. Our secondary schools, so our middle school and our high school students are all going to be using a platform called Canvas. And we realize that that's new for a lot of our parents, but we've had that program, that platform in our district for about 5 years. So it's not new to us. It just isn't something that had been used across the board. But one of the things that Canvas is going to do, it's a more robust platform, so it's going to be really great for our secondary schools, for our teachers to build out that content. It's just as easy for students to access as it is Google Classroom. It's the same login and password, so all of that will work the same. And it's actually a product that's being used around the nation and at a lot of our post-secondary institutions. So the University of Kentucky, for example, has been using Canvas for several years. So we're also preparing our kids for the next level by giving them that experience in Canvas now. So we're very excited. One, that we have those platforms, but number two, that we have standardized around those at the different grade levels. That should make things a whole lot easier for students, because everything will be in one place, and for parents, because they will have one platform depending on the grade level that they will need to look at to see how their child is progressing.
So Amy, this is Canvas, not to be confused with Canva, right?
That's correct. It's totally different.
Okay, so here you go, Amy. Here's a real question. How are our families, how can they learn to navigate these platforms, Google Classroom and Canvas? Like, what support is being provided? Because I'll tell you, I'll need that step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, A, B, and C. So how can our families learn to navigate these platforms?
Well, we started in the spring by building out some resources on the district website, and I think we may be pulling that up here in just a second to show. But when parents visit the fcps.net website, and right now we have that lovely back to school banner, they can click on that NTI2DL, that blue link, and that's going to take them to the page about our differentiated distance learning that's going on right now. And if you scroll down, you'll see on the left-hand side links to things like online meetings, accessing student email, Canvas resources, Google Classroom resources, and some other things as well. So we're putting parent resources for parents and for students on those pages and updating those. I know just this week we've added some more resources for both Google Classroom that are documents with that step-by-step directions with pictures for both Canvas and Google Classroom. We're also in the process of having those documents translated into our top 7 languages. So we will be getting those posted very shortly, just as soon as we get those resources back. But there's also some videos on these pages, and anything new that we add, this is where we're putting it to make sure that it's accessible for our parents.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm learning myself tonight.
Me too.
I need to click on that blue link and I'll work here. All right, Amy, so you kind of touched on this a little, but exactly how do they interact with the curriculum programs that students will be using? Like Imagine Learning that BJ, I think, mentioned earlier.
So that's a great question. So really, Google Classroom and Canvas are just a portal for kids to pass through. So it's going to be a place where teachers can post assignments. They can post links out to those other tools that we're using. They can put in the directions for a given day that a student needs to go to Imagine Learning to access, a certain assignment or to complete a certain piece of work, an assessment. And so really, this is just going to be where students will want to start each day, and then the teachers will be putting information about where they need to go from there. So a lot of it, they're still, those other tools are still external, so they'll have to go to a different site, but that information will be linked there, and then we also have some of that information on our district website as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so BJ and Soraya, I have a hard question for you. You ready? Okay, so every parent wants to know, what about the expectation of learning online and what is the accountability?
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. So some of the expectations that will be different from the spring is that we will have some well-defined structures. Schools are already starting to share those structures with our families. It is important that all teachers and students prepare for this new learning in this new year. That means putting some key structures in place at home as well and at school. There will be some synchronous learning times where students will be meeting for class at the same time throughout the week. And then there will be some asynchronous tasks and assignments given for students to do offline, kind of away from the screen. And then teachers will also provide support and feedback throughout that process. And more importantly, yes, grades do count. Make sure our kids know that their grades do count. And we're just teaching and learning for mastery.
So those are 2 words that I learned this week in training. Those 2 words right there, definitely got that.
Good.
BJ, you're on mute. Come off mute.
So, right, Dr. Matthews, can you talk about what those 2 words mean?
Which 2 words? Tell me which 2.
Synchronous and asynchronous.
Oh, yes, definitely. So synchronously means that it's happening at the same time, whatever, everyone is in the space together. So for example, right now we're on this call, we're in Zoom, and this is synchronous because we're doing it in real life time together. Asynchronously means that you get to do it on your own time, at your leisure, you know, everybody kind of doing their own thing. So if they have some assignments in Canvas, then they can access it at 5 o'clock in the morning at AM or midnight at night. And it, you know, it just, they're working individually. So that's really the difference.
That's, listen, when I tell you that those are 2 words that I had to learn this week, it's a whole thing. BJ, you were going to say something. I think you were on.
I was muted. I apologize. I just wanted to add, you know, that the NTI 2DL is not like the NTI we saw in the spring. Over the summer, we had time to reflect on the spring and plan for all of those structures that Soraya spoke of in preparation for this new school year. And I also just want to say how hard our teachers have been working to design those online experiences that align to the standards that our students will be learning this year. Even though the mode of instruction is going to look a little bit different, meaning we won't start face-to-face, I think families are going to be so pleased just to see the various methods and the technologies that are going to facilitate those student-to-teacher interactions and times when students will be interacting with their peers. So just know that teachers are going to be assigning those grade level tasks, those activities, those projects that's going to allow students to still apply their learning, but there's going to be a lot of intentional time for the feedback and reflection from peers, from their teacher, from times for them to reflect, you know, themselves. So I'm just really excited about what this year is going to look like.
Good. That's so good to hear and so comforting, right? It gives us a little more confidence to start the year. Yeah. So in the event that COVID miraculously goes away or it calms down enough for the governor to allow us back to in-person learning, how will virtual learning transition to in-person learning if that is to happen soon or anytime? BJ or Soraya, Dr. Matthews, you can start.
So just speaking about the transition specifically, for students, of course, there's going to be the physical transition from being in a virtual world to going back to more of a traditional sense and being face-to-face with teachers. But to be quite honest, we expect the same expectations in our virtual. Teaching and learning is the key. And that will be no different than when we're in a virtual space and when we're going to go face-to-face. But again, that transition will be more that physical transition and what that will be like. The teaching and learning should be pretty much seamless.
Good answer. I like that.
And the only thing I would add to that is just, having the resources that we do in our district. We are certainly so blessed, and we're so blessed that every child is going to receive that high quality teaching and learning experience. Just as Soraya said, whether we're in person or we're working through distance learning, we are equipped for success, I think, just because of the resources and the talent that we have in our district.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this question is for all you all. And so BJ, you kind of already tapped into it a little bit, but to focus on our families' expectations in the coming weeks from their child's school, to prepare for the NTI and 2DL. So what is that expectation from the schools that families should be looking for?
So definitely some type of orientation. Schools I know are planning and preparing right now and scheduling orientations, probably more likely a virtual orientation, of course, to provide just an overview for families of what that 6 weeks will entail. You should also expect some type of a firm schedule with those predetermined synchronous times that we discussed earlier. A check to ensure students have everything that they need at home, their Chromebooks, any other tools that are needed for the learning process, and then also contact information for the school, for your teachers. They should be touching base at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and absolutely exactly what Soraya shares. Our teachers have been involved in lots of training this week alone and all throughout the summer just to prepare for NTI 2DL. In fact, Soraya and I have been with about 4,000 of them so far this week. Schools are going to be sharing schedules. We've been working with schools on schedules. Schools will be sharing those and providing support on how to access the content, just like, Amy shared, and also how to just get inside the Google Classroom and the Canvas course. And so all of that will be coming just to kind of help families transition into this new way of learning.
That's awesome. You kind of made me think, one of you all said something that reminded me, as parents, if we treat this school year as normal and start it out, let's go back to school shopping, let's get you some school supplies, then the kids will be more likely to treat it as a normal school year. So
absolutely. Structures are important.
Exactly. So to kind of close out this Q&A session, what advice or words of encouragement would you like to share with our families? And we can start with Amy.
Sure. So I think my advice would be, first off, to be patient with your children and with your teachers. We are all learning together, and we're all going to get better at it as the weeks go on. So patience is going to help all of us to get through this and be more successful. And then I do want to add too that if our families need technical support, we do have a family contact for that, for our technology help desk. And that number is 381-4410. Okay. And we are currently offering those hours Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you can call the technology help desk. If you're having an issue with your child's Chromebook, or they can't log into an account, or those kinds of issues, we do have folks that are live and happy to help.
Can I just say that you and Bob Moore are so consistent with that number? I mean, you're just on it.
I've said it a few times.
Right.
It's important.
BJ, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I just think about emotions. One thing Soraya and I have been talking with our teachers about is, how are you feeling? How are you really feeling? And just being mindful of the perspectives and the feelings that our students are going to have, and our teachers are going to have, and our families and the community. But, I know this year's going to bring about a lot of emotions, and some of us feel overwhelmed and anxious, but I just feel encouraged. That's been my word all week long that I've shared with teachers. I feel encouraged because I know how hard schools have been working to prepare for this. And I feel encouraged because our district has all of the resources that we have for teachers and for our students and for our families. And I feel encouraged because I know that through partnerships with our families, we are going to get through all of this. And in fact, I really think we're setting things up for this to be the very best school year yet. I do. I believe that.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Matthews?
So if I get a word, so Amy has said patient and BJ said encourage. I think the word I'm going to go with is grace. And that's actually a word that our Chief of Staff, Sharonda Morton, uses all the time with us. just to remember grace is the word of the day every day. And then just, making sure that we are doing everything we can to stay connected to our teachers. If we're families, stay connected to your students' teachers. Always reach out if you have a question for anything. Do not hesitate. Don't sit and wonder what's going on or what's going to happen. Stay active and stay proactive. And then I will just kind of wrap up with, I've got a phone number to share too. So I like to just wrap up and say, if there are any families who have questions or they just want to reach out in regards to the Virtual Learning Academy, we have both an email address that you can email questions to, as well as a phone number. And that email address is special.programs.fayette.kyschools.us. And the phone number is 859-381-4741.
So I was going to try to mimic that, but I'm not going to.
Jesus.
So, Sharika, do you have a word? Because, they have a word. Do you have a word?
They say, what do we say? Patience, courage, and grace. You put me on the spot.
I'm sorry. Well, listen.
What's your word, Melody?
Well, our principal gave us flexibility. We have to be able to be flexible this year. And so we have to be able to go with the flow. And so that is the school's word. So I'm going to encourage everybody to have a word for this year. And so I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but they had a word.
I'll have about the next show.
Okay. So I really want to thank you all for joining us on this week's Face It topic and Q&A chat. It was a lot of good information for our families and students to know, to have in their toolbox and ready to go. We want to continue to stay connected to our families out there and stay connected with you as well, and continue to build a stronger community of support for our families. Sharika has a number in the email address to give everybody as well. Go ahead.
I do. We're just throwing out numbers. So we want your pictures, your videos, other words of encouragement. One just kind of popped in my head. It's kind of 2 words: self-care. Take care of yourselves throughout this process. And that's for staff, that's for parents, that's for kids. Self-care, that's my word. So anyway, show us how you are doing it. Show us how you are facing this together. And we will highlight that on our our Facebook page. You can email those to us at Fayette.kyschools.us. Our behind the scenes person should pop it up. There we go. Or you can text those to us at 859-903-5531. We would love to see what you all are doing.
Absolutely. And everyone, please mark your calendars. We are doing a new Face It topic on next Thursday at 6:30. Hopefully that will be live. And during the next chat, we are still going to be focusing on facing virtual learning together, student support. So again, we want to stay connected with everyone and continue to face it together. You all have a good evening, and we will be seeing you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.